Or
You know, I did some stuff, but I was not real happy with the results, and I was going to do the heart and soul mosaic. So I started out doing one panel, and I figured that on the RA is where I was going to move it. I wasn't going to move on deck. I was going to do a 3-panel mosaic, and I wanted the 30% overlap. Well, if you do the math, it turns out there's about 20 minutes of RA on the short axis of the sensor with the MP127IS. So in order to move, let's say 70%, so you get 30% overlap, that's about 14 minutes of arc. And I got this wild notion about going 15 minutes. And it turns out that I've got probably a less than 20% overlap right now as a result of that. That's one thing. The second thing I didn't like is the weights were almost straight down. So it tells you that you've got a pretty shallow angle in terms of, you don't want to be too close to the horizon, because you can never really focus the optics very well in a position like that. There's too much aberration in the atmosphere to allow that. And that's kind of what I got into. Like, see, the first half hour, 45 minutes of the shoot, the stars were bloated. And then after that, they started to get much tighter. And the focusing on that instrument, by the way, is so precise. I've never seen anything like it. I mean, you can literally move that thing like a son of a gun, and it hardly changes the focus at all. I mean, it does, but I'm just saying it's that fine. So it's very easy to focus, much easier than, let's say, the RedCap 51. So I knew I was in focus, but yet the stars were more bloated, and the only thing I could figure is the atmosphere. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait until the next lunar cycle. It'll be up higher, see, and then I can get it and have a better idea of how to do this and get.
So, hey, Hank, you took shots of the heart and soul last week, right?
At some point I may have tried to. I was mostly playing around with the problems that I had with my AVX, and I added that webcam to watch my mount, which was a great lot of fun. It's actually very useful. Anyway, I figured out the problems with the AVX. Just a matter of setting the time. I thought it was going to be set from Ekos, but it doesn't really. So yeah,
it's got its own internal RTC.
It has its own time. Yeah, I haven't set the RTC. I think it's just a matter of selecting, turn the RTC on, and then it just does it. I believe. I think it has a battery inside or something like that. So yeah, I'll try that next time. Then I don't have to set it. But otherwise, it's just a matter of just entering the time, and it does have the location right and all that. So I think that was all it was.
Well, Hank, your webcam is just because you're worried about what happens if it does a meridian flip or something?
Yeah, I haven't set the limits of the mount. I haven't done that for the on-step system that I have, and I haven't done it for the AVX. And setting the limits is a bit complicated because the AVX has its own limits, and Ekos, I think it just shows the limits on the AVX and tries to set it from there. I haven't really practiced that, and I'm not too interested in that actually. Normally, you shouldn't have to deal with the limits, right? So I'm just hoping that everything will go fine, but if it doesn't, then I'd like to press the stop button. So anyway, it's nice to watch it slew. Yeah,
I've got some pictures to show what people have been doing with their cell phones. Some of them are pretty impressive. If I can share the screen.
You talking about your club members? Yeah, go ahead.
No. Well, one club member, but one friend. I don't know if you can see this.
Pretty. Yeah.
Okay,
that's really pretty.
that's done with a Pixel camera in Enzo Borrego, and the Pixel camera has the ability to stack. Look at that. That's just hanging on the guy's window, pointing out because he doesn't have too good a mobility. He's done stuff with the iPhone too, which is pretty impressive too. But that's really good. And let me go get the other thing to show. Okay, hold a second here.
That's amazing. I just read a story about pixel stacking somewhere at the pixel camera had the stacking.
Yeah, let me see if I can do this here because it's share
That's good to know. I have
screen.
camera, so
Okay, this is done with an iPhone, afocal, on a guy's zhumell 13 inch, oh no, 12-inch telescope, just holding it there, unguided. And of course, he selected the best of a couple hundred. I mean, he worked with a couple hundred frames, but that's incredible. And he said that he did it in registax, and he felt that using the wavelets for sharpening just made it look ugly. So this is just stacked.
So you didn't do any real processing to it,
None,
just
none,
pre-process. Wow.
none.
So was he?
How did he get it? I presume he took an AVI movie of from behind the eyepiece,
Yes.
right? He ran that
Yes.
through registax. Yeah, then that's believable because you don't need a whole lot of resolution for that kind of work. So any lousy camera will do.
But the fact of the matter is that it worked so well with the I have an old picture of myself with my webcam that I
Where was
developed.
this picture taken? Where was
What?
he? What
This
location was it?
this is in Rio Vista. We had a couple
Wow.
of really good nights of seeing, just a couple. And normally you wouldn't get anything close to this.
Right.
So he dragged the scope out, set it up, and did it. Probably during the time I was troubleshooting and dealing with my observatory issues, which I've solved. NexDome sent me the part. I replaced it. It took me about 30-40 minutes to replace. And I found some gasket material at the local auto parts store, put it on the door, and it looks like, for the most part, it's watertight. I have one small area down on the bottom where I think it might be seeping in underneath, but we had a pretty bad rainstorm, and I think my I think things are fixed, so now I can get back to
You guys had a
imaging.
record like 5.4 inches up there, didn't you?
Yeah.
Wow. I wish we could get a little bit more of that.
But that 5 inches of rain that happened before you fixed your NexDome, right?
It happened after before I fixed no, happened after. Oh, hold a second. Yeah, it did before I fixed the NexDome, and then, but we had rain this weekend and it didn't leak. So I mean, the one piece, it was cracked all the way across. It was just, it was just getting in there. So the next thing is I need to go and take some deep sky images with the QHY410 just to make sure it's 100%. But yeah, I'm really happy about that. So last night I gave a talk on drawing at the telescope, and of course we had a small turnout because most people just they wanted to go to our club to look through telescopes, and when they don't, or they don't go to meetings or whatever, they just don't participate. But it actually turned out to be a pretty fun thing to do. It's something that your club should try and do. We put up a couple of images of Mars and the moon and had people draw. And I went through a talk on the history of astronomical sketching, or putting down on paper or stone the images, and it's quite interesting. On the internet, they had a article about some of the caves in France where they showed this animal upside down and things are bad. And it's basically recording the fact that the caveman saw a comet strike in Europe 17,000 years ago. And it's all the more remarkable that in another culture, in another place, but putting it down on stone instead of, pictograph inside a cave, also recorded that event 17,000 years ago.
So Mike, what did the animals have to do with the comet sketch? Is it
I
talking about
think it had,
constellations?
well, I think it had to do with the fact that they were probably fairly close and probably the animals, got knocked over or whatever. It was just, they're trying to make sense out of it. You know what I mean?
I'm wondering if the animals represented the constellation somehow that up in the sky.
No, well, no, not really. I can I
Or
can show
maybe
you.
when the comet appeared, the hunting got real good.
Here, hold a second here. I can bring up the thing here. Let's see, drawn at the scope. Okay, let me just do a share screen. Okay. Yeah, there it is right there. And so they had another one where the one site sort of like correlated some of the constellations. But other things too is like in America, they recorded like what scientists think is the nova of 1006. And this is like in the Chumash area, more astronomical drawings. Of course, they're not going to draw it like we do.
That's
because they
Painted
don't know.
Cave there. Yeah.
Yeah. And another one. And this has been in the internet recently too, where the Chinese 4th century, they're drawing things that they're seeing. And of course, we got Thomas Herriot that drew the moon. This is done before Galileo, not by much. And here's Galileo. And solar activity drawings. And this is interesting. I guess I'm hogging up the time, but I'll do it anyway. John Herschel was very meticulous in his drawing. What he did was he took a micrometer and measured all the positions of the stars on this on M8. And then what he did was afterwards drew sort of like with the smudges trying to show the nebulosity. And I thought that was pretty interesting. This guy really did a really great job. And also his sister. This is done by his sister. And
Where's William? William, is he in the fray there?
I didn't catch any of his drawings. It's sort of like I was running out of time.
Yeah.
So you get to the 1800s and they got better telescopes, and it's starting to look a little artistic too. They've got the color crayons and stuff like that. And so this guy, did some wonderful drawings of the planets and other things. And there's like a series of like 15 or 20 that are in a famous museum. And this guy is another Frenchman that has caused the United States untold misery, because he was into developing a super breed of silkworms for manufacturing silk in the United States. And so his intent was to mate the gypsy moth with some
Uh-oh.
silkworms, and they got out. And that's why we have the gypsy moths in the United States.
Oh, wow.
Like the other Frenchman that brought in the escargot snails because he wanted his favorite food in the United States. And now we have to live with that, eating all our plants. So, and then I showed him about Percival Lowell, how, he started out with very simple things. And then the one thing about Percival Lowell, I just learned about it today, studying the drawings of Venus, and people were finally able to look at some of the striations in the clouds to try and determine the rotation. Lowell started drawing lines in it like he did canals on Mars, and there was this whole hubbub about, like he was some sort of idiot. So I'm wondering if Lowell actually had some sort of, wasn't mental, but probably a visual acuity problem that introduced lines into whatever he saw.
Cataracts.
Might have been. So, and so this gets us to the amateurs, and this is a kind of interesting thing. This really was black on white, and what the guy did was use GIMP, took a photograph and did a negative image of it. So that's one way of recording. And this guy did another interesting thing. He took images of the moon, a full moon, different light intensities. And then what he did in Photoshop, I forget in Photoshop, he colored over it as though his impressions of what the lunar eclipse was at different times. So it's sort of like a drawing over an actual photograph, like, much like, people tinted photographs in the early 1900s. And then this is Howard Banich, who's the one of the guys with Sky Telescope. And this is interesting. If you ever go to Mel Bartel's, he's not only a telescope maker, but a very good drawer. And so he does plan. And you notice that this telescope of his is a 25-inch f2.6. Okay. He's observing at 300, but he stopped it down to 10 inches. Okay. And one of the things that he's doing, he's drawing what is called an IFM, which is integrated something nebulosity. Okay.
Integrated flux nebula.
Yeah, right. There you go. And so this is the Pleiades, and you can see he's a really good drawer. He's got all the stars and the nebulosity, but he's really into the short focal length, maximum area type telescopes. And with the 6-inch, he's able to see all this faint nebulosity with a 6-inch telescope. And so he built a bigger one. And this is with his 25-inch f2.6. This is all hand drawn. And there's his wife with his 25-inch f2.6. And this is M32 and I can't read it very well.
M31 and M32.
Yeah, and then there's this cloud nebulosity.
Actually, that's probably M31 in the center, and then
Yeah.
to the upper left
32.
is M32, and then 110.
But what he's
Yeah.
able to do is see some of this other nebulosity that's not really well seen in imaging. And you can see that with the eye. And so it's given courage to make his next telescope, which is a 30-inch. He's in.
Boy, it must
Okay.
be a heck of a job to figure something like that with such a low focal.
Well,
Nightmare. Yeah, nightmare.
had you looked at the LAS thing, he talks about this. This mirror is a 30-inch, but it's made out of, I think, 3/8 or 1/2 inch plate glass that he bought at a online place for glass tables, and then they slumped it in a kiln. And so he's getting close to completion. Okay, so the mirror is probably only like about 30 pounds at the most.
Wow.
Okay, the other telescope, this other one, is probably 20 pounds. He's got a 13-inch that only weighs a couple pounds. And in the background, you can see over here, he's got a pair of 40-inch discs that he's going to start working on.
Mm.
It never ends, that doggone average.
And plate glass, is that plate glass, Mike? It
Plate
looks really,
glass.
really
Yeah. And he talks about the fact that, and other people too, if you get it thin enough, okay, it loses its heat really quickly because there's so much area and so little thermal mass. And the secret is that it's a meniscus. It's not flat underneath with the curve. And it gives an incredible rigidity. Case in point, all your Celestron near me telescopes, they're pseudo meniscus. And so he only, I think on his 13-inch and I think the 25-inch, he only needed 3 points of support and not see anything at 300 power.
I'm not
So
sure what you mean by the meniscus. In other words, the back is not flat. It's
all the same.
okay.
Okay, it's like a bubble. Okay,
Okay.
it's all the same thickness, and it has and those other ones too, in the background, they're all meniscus.
So Mike, what does he use for a form to slump into? What is that made out of?
So made out of refractory material, and he's been working with a couple people over the years to perfect the precision shaping of the refractory material and how to get it not fall apart in the kiln and get the temperature just right so it slumps, but it doesn't melt. And the other thing too is once you got it slumped, you need to cool it off, but it goes through this region where it crystallizes and
Yep.
it crazes. So the thing is they have to open it up and get it cooled down just enough to get above that, and then close it up and then go into the slow annealing process. Otherwise, you come up with a strained mirror that could crack when you're handling it.
You know, Mike, in dentistry that we had a very similar cool down with the ceramic materials. It came to a certain temperature, you know, Celsius. You would come down to like 600 degrees Celsius, and between 600 and let's say 480, you would want it to cool there over a period of so many minutes. And it not only would it allow these crystals, and I can't remember what the
you want to keep it amorphous, not crystalline, because it'll crack.
well, these certain crystals would grow at that temperature, and it was almost a thermoplastic stage, and it was and so these crystals would grow there, and then you could cool it, you know, for annealing purposes. But with the ceramics for dentistry, if you cooled it over so many minutes through those temperatures, 600 to 480, something like that, these crystals would grow, and the ceramic was way harder if you did that. And I don't know how they figured that out, but the ceramic engineers, they just ran a bunch of tests on it. And
probably a lot of people came back would say, hey, my damn tooth that I paid $1,000 for broke.
Well, yeah, and I can't
warranty?
remember what they called. Maybe there was lucite crystals, something like that, but they would grow between a certain temperature and another temperature. If you slowed down the cooling between those two temperatures, it would not only grow these crystals, I think they were lucite crystals, and it would also anneal the ceramic. And I'm sure that with glass, it's somewhat similar. I know with the Hale telescope, when they had that in the dome, where they poured all the Pyrex in.
Yeah.
And then they'd close the dome, and it took them something like 6 months, 8 months to
Yeah.
anneal.
Well, that
It
was
was
the second time, because the first time they cracked.
The first time it cracked, and the ceramic material that you were talking about, that's the forms.
Yeah, they floated up.
They floated up, and then even the second time that happened, it broke away. They just couldn't figure out how to keep that in one place without coming apart.
It's kind of interesting, and I don't have the pictures anymore, because I when I was working up north in San Jose, I used to help out at Group 70, and they had one of the sister discs of the 48-inch Schmidt telescope. And inside, you could just see how ugly it was, because those were actually poured before the 200-inch. The Schmidt really was sort of like a dress rehearsal, you might say. And
those were the 30-inch discs. The 30.
No, they were 70-inch. 70-inch.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know they did, and they still have those.
Yeah. Well, they're using that's one's the Orschwin, and the other one, I don't know what happened to Group 70. I think a lot of them got old and lost money in the stock market. I don't know, but I don't know if they ever finished the telescope. But you could see, because it was polished, all the junk inside, very non-uniform glass inside. They had they learned from those discs how to make the 200-inch. But another thing with this telescope here that's very interesting is that there's no vanes for the diagonal. It's all held up with wire. It's a wire truss. It's got very low. He talks about how you have virtually no diffraction spikes, and it's very rigid. And take a look at that mirror. It's a big mirror, very offset, and it's able to keep the alignment as it's moved up and down. That's a lot of cantilevered weight.
Yeah. I noticed when I collimate my little 10-inch, that when I slew it from zenith down to about 30 degrees, and you have your collimating, your laser on, and you're looking at that little paper ring in the inside.
Because it twists.
It just really moves.
Because it goes from thick to thin at the end, and so there's really not much keeping it from twisting one way or another. It's probably good when it's on axis, with the cross members, okay, this way or this way. A whole second. But and when you're in the middle, it's probably not that great. But evidently, this type of wire truss thing, because they're cross from each other, so one pulls and the other one pulls the other way. It's able to handle it. And the secret is not how tight you get the wires. It's the fact that it's the wires themselves. So
that reminds me of something on the Hale telescope. When you slew the Hale telescope, the big trunnions, they'd move. They'd really heavily torque. And much like what you were talking about, the way that it was wired together, when they devised of a technique of when that thing would slew downward, it would the wires, whatever they had there, it would compensate the pressure going the opposite direction, and keep everything rigid, keep it all intact and in place. It was a hell of a design.
Now there's an interesting thing that's going to go on with those the large 40-inch mirrors. They're not going to be held normally, as I remember, or it could have been the larger telescope. What they're talking about now is gluing tabs all around the edge of the mirror, okay, and having special dingbats, okay, having a hard time, okay, where you got this is where the mirror is. Okay, pivot point, weight. Okay, and so when you're
Oops.
it wants the weight pull down. Okay, so it's
Mhm.
pulling up on the mirror, but on the bottom, okay, here's the mirror, here's the pivot point, and here's the weight. The weight's pulling down, so it's pulling up. So the idea is to compensate for the shifting of the weight on the assembly by all these small counterweights, which I believe are equivalently the same weight as the mirror, to keep that centered from going up and down as you're going up and down in altitude, because of the fact that there's not much room for error when for misalignment in these type of telescopes.
Mm.
You know. Oh
And
well.
you've heard in the again, going back to the 200-inch mirror, what you're talking about here was one way of compensating for it. The guy that designed, you know, with the
Yeah.
hollow cavities behind the honeycomb
Yes.
structure behind the mirror, they put these mechanical. It was a mechanical computer. So these weights, as you would slew the mirror,
Yeah.
the mirror was deformed. It would actually,
Yes.
it was designated as kind of a semi-liquid, so that as it was slewed, it would actually misform the mirror. It would, you know, it would actually get thicker at the bottom, thinner
Yes.
at the top. And so
Right.
these guys devised of these kind of like, the way I read about it was, it was like some ball bearings that would kind of slip back and forth as you would slew it downward or left, right. It was amazing.
I noticed those structures when I visited when we took a tour of the 200-inch telescope.
Yeah.
We didn't get to go in the cage down in the bottom of it, but
Yeah.
we got really close to it. But you know, there's a lot of mechanical structures, and a lot of the big reflector telescopes of that era, you know, had those mechanical dingbats that
Yeah.
compensated for it. So
I
there's
heard that they broke down, and that at one point they broke down, and the guy that devised the system had died. So no one really knew how to work it. And so I think they had to rediscover what this guy did. They had to kind of reverse engineer it to get an idea what would happen. But they didn't have anybody to say, oh, this is what we got to do.
that kind of sounds like the Hubble telescope this year, where
Yeah.
they had to go get the people out of retirement.
It was quite a story, you know. Not only that, but what the story that I loved was, there was a guy that they hired from Netherlands or Sweden, I can't remember.
Yeah.
It all had to do with the motors that were going to drive the weight of the whole observatory was going to ride on. And some guy had figured out this. You realize that we're going to have to be hauling up diesel fuel right and left, because it's going to take like a gigantic engine to pump the hydraulics that's going to lift the mirror. And it wasn't until this engineer that came from a European country, just put it that way, he said, no, you guys have got it wrong. You have to look at the point that the whole observatory is riding on, that those bearings are riding on. It's a very, very small area. And you only need the size of a motor you need is kind of like a refrigerator size motor. It's very, very dinky. And then that in turn would pressurize, the hydraulics would lift that whole entire mirror system with a very, very small motor. And the guy, not only did he not understand astronomy or telescopes, he never got to see it used, nothing. He completely fixed this system for him and then went back home. He had no clue what he had done, but they had literally stopped the entire project because they were stumped. Anyway, for what it's worth.
Another thing that's going to happen this week, believe it or not, I actually have my bath interferometer out in the garage pointing at a mirror, and then I forgot how to set it up. So just before the mirror, I saw the videos how to set it up. So maybe finally next week I'll have some interferometer some grams to go and show you. I'm going to try
Oh.
it on my 14.5-inch mirror and then my 10-inch mirror. So
That's going to be interesting, really interesting.
it will be. But
Mike, you were talking about the group 70 that you worked with,
yes,
and they actually still have a website that
yes.
that they're working with. So
I don't know
So
if
it sounded like they started with a mirror that's 72 inches.
okay,
and,
72, yeah.
Yeah. So that's why maybe why it's called Group 70, I suppose.
That's right.
Yeah.
And it was real interesting how I had pictures of everybody in front of the mirror, and it's one of those things where you go through one computer after another and somehow things get missed. But there was a picture of, we had everybody in front of the mirror.
This is it.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, okay, end of the year. Okay, there's a few people missing that I work with. Second from, okay, there it is. I took that picture, I believe.
So you're not in it.
Not in it. And my wife. Okay, top right is Dan Zuris. Okay, and the guy on the other side of Dan, he was the guy, no, above, top, no, the other way, right there. I think he was the one that came up with the tester. And oh, let me tell you how they treated this mirror. You're gonna cringe. Okay, it's okay. First of all, that mirror weighs thousands of pounds. Okay, and this place where they were is not very big. So to get it off, they have to put this ring around it. It's got wooden spacers. Okay, so they're tightening it up, and to make sure that the strain of tightening up the ring, because it's only they only tighten it in certain segments. Okay, they take a sledgehammer and hit on the ring all around this disc as they're tightening it up to fight distriction, so that they get even an even tightness all the way around there. And I'm going, oh my gosh, oh, we do this all the time. Whack, whack,
One
whack,
false move.
whack, whack. It's sort of like, oh god. And so they finally get it tightening up. Okay, and they take it and it goes vertical. It's basically on a trunnion. So they lift it up, bring it over, and trunnion it over. Okay, and one of the interesting things that happened, 2003, I was there, 2002 or so, around there. But anyways, they discovered really quickly that what they thought was astigmatism really was the fact that the ground was cooler than the ceiling, because you got 70 inches of to go up, and it was getting warmer. So they I guess what they did was they just said, that's just the atmosphere. But they thought the thing was totally astigmatized, and they didn't know how to fix it. Yeah. Okay. So that's new. But they had this interesting tester. It was like unlike anything else. It was some sort of special thing.
Ooh.
That they never really with any certainty figure out the measurements. It was sort of like always up to interpretation. Okay, go back up. Okay, a little bit more, a little bit more. That guy, he used to go to RTMC all the time. Yeah. Him and Kevin Matlock one year, they came up with the cookbook hammer knockoff, where it was TC2 211. It's a 196 by 165 chip, and they came up with a really slick mount made out of stainless steel. So this is I hadn't seen this before. This is interesting. They're actually made.
That's huge.
Had like a fork mount? That doesn't look like
Well, they're trying to, yeah, I mean, that this is how they know how to engineer things. But yeah, well, you're talking about a 70-inch telescope, and they're trying to make it super rigid, you know, like a real observatory one. But they've been working on this for years. I know some of them retired early, and then they lost their shirts when the .com bust came. They were talking about that. So that's probably part of the reason why they ran out of funds. Let's say 2000 was that?
Oh, sorry.
Okay, well, this is interesting because yeah, this was Cabot. Okay.
This is a mathematics here.
Please send me the links to this here, because you know, this disc was like, was laying in the cellar of the observatory in Tasmania for like decades.
What's that? The piece of glass?
The piece of glass, yes.
Wow.
It's a match to another 72-inch or 70-inch at Palomar or something.
It's the Orschwin Schmidt.
Yeah, right here. There's two blanks cast in 1940s by Corning, and
Yep.
Palomar took the better of the two.
That's right.
I thought that Palomar also had General Electric's. They tried to fuse.
Oh yeah, and they never could.
And well, they got one. They got one that took just about all the money that they had.
Yeah, yeah.
I think they actually finished one, which is what I thought you were talking about. I did not realize that Corning cast two of the 72.
No, they went to Corning. Yeah.
So Mike, you were talking earlier, people sketching Venus.
Yeah.
And here's an image of Venus showing these lines, which I've never seen that on Venus before.
That might be ultraviolet.
Oh, maybe. Let me click on it, see more detail. It's one of the images of the day for the astrobin.com. And filters, IR 850.
Infrared. Okay, yeah.
Infrared.
Wow.
3x Barlow. 16-inch Newtonian f4.8. That's pretty wide to be taken of Venus, not very narrow.
Well, the resolution's not all that much, is it? You know, but
no,
but the thing is that
16-inch f5. That's kind of middle of the road.
Yeah, when you really get down to it, it's not the F ratio that matters. It's the accuracy of the parabola and the alignment.
Yeah.
Because Mel Bartels, he had a 25-inch telescope, another one that was like f6, and they were looking at the planets at like 1200 power, 3000 power one night when the seeing allowed them. So, you know, it's not out of the ordinary.
Have you heard of this Player One Neptune C2 camera?
No, but I have the book Ready Player One up in my library here.
Yeah, yeah. Not the same. This astrobin.com is just amazing what images that people have.
Oh, yeah. It makes you cringe. Whatever you have that you think looks good, somebody has something better here.
Yeah.
Well, you guys do some pretty spectacular stuff. I think.
Oh, geez. Now
Look
look
at
at that.
These are all images of the day.
Oh, hold a second. Go back to that Jupiter one. What did
Yeah.
he use? Jeez.
That's great.
Oh my gosh.
He's doing he's showing changes, I guess, in
Yeah,
certain area.
yeah,
of Jupiter.
Celestron? It's a
Oh,
14-inch.
let me go down let me go down further here.
Oh,
Yeah.
shit. I think I've seen some real good stuff done with C14.
Yeah. The 14-inch Celestron is the ultimate planetary telescope with electronic imaging.
Really?
Yeah, Christopher Go uses it and a few others. It's big enough that it's about as big as you're going to get as far as scene and resolution. It's compact and it's got a nice long focal ratio so that you can get imaging. And with the software allows you to get very close to the theoretical maximum.
He's located in Texas.
Yeah. He probably doesn't have the damn winds and turbulence I have. Like I said, Rob, that picture I showed to Rob, it was very steady. But
hey, did you guys ever see that article where I don't know if it was in one of the astronomy magazines. I'm assuming it was, where they went to look at where were the darkest sites, I think in the United States or the world. I think it was the United States. And the darkest place I found was someplace in Texas. And the lady said that she wouldn't allow her husband to go out at night because he wouldn't find his way back. If the lights were out, it was so dark.
Well, it's pretty dark. I'll tell you, in California, you go to the Chocolate Mountains.
Yeah.
And around there, and it's even darker than Anza Borrego.
Where the Chocolate Mountains at?
It's between Highway 14 and Highway 80. What's the, here, hold a second. I'm going
So that's
to,
up north? Up north?
No, it's
You're talking in the desert, right?
desert.
Oh,
Mojave.
Yeah,
Oh,
Mojave.
okay.
Yeah, let me go. I'm gonna go and try and I'll find it for you. I'll tell you where it's at.
Are these dark sites that we're looking at here?
Or these are places where people are making measurements or something. Yeah, the black is probably the best ones, huh?
Then you're gonna have to worry about wind there, though.
Colorado,
Okay.
Love Lake parking lot. Oh, so they're trying to tell you places to go.
Where is maps? Okay. And I'll tell you where it's at. Looking now.
Overlook parking. What do they say? Let's see, just by Death Valley right here. This is Death Valley National Park where I was at this weekend.
It's near Kelso Dunes.
Okay.
Oh, Kelso, isn't that in Joshua Tree area?
Yeah, probably
No, but it's
south of there. Joshua.
Or is that Mojave? Kelso Dunes.
okay, hold a second.
I think it's south of Joshua Tree, I believe.
Yeah, it's in the mountains. There's a couple of campsites and
Baker, California.
Yeah, Baker.
Oh,
It's near
okay.
Baker.
Oh, okay.
And it's
Death
you
Valley.
go you
It's
go on this
Mojave.
road that's by Baker, and it's a 2-lane, and then you go to Kelso and you go past it, and then you hit this dirt road where you go for like 15, 20 miles.
Yeah, I've been there. Yeah.
Isn't that where the caverns are? Is that?
Yes,
Yeah,
it's near where the caverns are.
yeah. Which all that stuff is closed down now, from what I understand. I
Oh,
mean,
you're kidding.
I'm pretty sure. I mean, the last time I went through there, which was a while back, it was closed. Well, shoot, you know, the doggone things are closed then. It's going to be closed now because they don't have the money to keep the stuff open.
Huh.
Now, they may have opened it up. Now, maybe it was a COVID thing or whatever, but no, this was before COVID was closed down. Because I tried to get in there. I think it's called Providence State Park.
Yes, Providence Mountain.
That park has been closed, so we can, what's the status on it now?
Damn, because that's
Closed. Yeah, the dunes I know are closed.
Well, this was 1973 when they closed.
Oh, okay.
okay.
But all that area, from what I understand, has been closed down for a while.
Huh.
And I would like to know if it is open, that would be neat, because it's not that hard to get down there in that area there. You know, what I was thinking is the other side of, because see, that's 40 that goes through there.
Yes.
So you're north of 40, south of 40, you have that divergence on the 66 highway, see, that doesn't parallel 40, it goes south of there. That's what I was thinking would be a good area, because there's nothing out there. I mean, there's no civilization for the most part. It's all
There's hold a second. I'm trying to find where it is again. But there, Providence Mountains. Okay, there is a campsite that got burnt over, and we were there a couple years after, and it was like it was just totally awesome. I can't
See,
find
that's
it.
the issue that I have with the place, is there's no camping out there. For what I mean, you can camp anywhere you want. But
no, this had a campsite. It had pit toilets.
That's what I'm wanting. Is the toilets part right there.
Okay, you're the RV type.
No, I'm not really an RV, but I got my lady needs to have at least somewhere she can.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm not proud myself.
Mitchell Caverns.
Yeah,
Well,
that's what I was thinking of.
That's part of it, but there's another part where you go to, and I can't find it here.
There was something on Wikipedia, they call it the Sultan Trough. The northeastern boundary is the Sultan Trough.
It sounds like the Salton Sea area.
Yeah, but then they start talking about chocolate mountains from Arizona.
Well, they probably got them there.
No, this is
California that I think Mike's talking about.
Yeah, but I think
right.
it's a mountain range that comes from Arizona. No, that can't be. That can't be.
maybe it's just the Providence Mountains themselves. But I'm looking on there's Kilbacker Road I'm looking at now.
Kilbacker Road is on goes on the other side. I've taken that down there.
Yeah.
So you get out there, man, there ain't nobody, there's no lights, nothing.
Okay, Black Canyon. Maybe it's
another thing here saying Oricopia Mountains.
Well, there's SEMA. Okay, I can see SEMA. SEMA Domes is where the Las Vegas people go to a lot. Okay.
Oh, okay. I'm way off.
But that's down low. But in the Providence Mountains themselves, they've got a campsite. And it's like 20 degrees cooler. So, it only gets up to about 90s, where it gets to be 120 down below there in the summer. So maybe we're talking about Wild Horse Mesa or, geez, I'm looking. I'm drawing a blank, and it could be they've taken it off the map for all we
Is it
know.
near Kelso?
It's past Kelso. And there's a Cedar Canyon Road, and
So Hank, when you go to Alabama Hills, you're muted right now. Hank. There you go. Is that it's up to 395? As
Right. Yeah.
Big Pine or
Lone Pine. Yeah.
Lone Pine?
so
Yeah, I
that
think
sounds like on the
about
way to
4 hours to get there.
Death
So
Valley.
Providence Mountain, the campgrounds are closed. This is what I'm seeing right now.
Okay,
And you can get
That's where we
special
went.
events involving gatherings. You might be able to get state permits. As far as day use, you're okay. Hiking, visiting center is reduced capacity, and Mitchell Cabins tours by reservation only.
but there's another one that's down below, but high on top of the mountain is where we went for a couple times.
So, and that is called what now?
I
Oh,
can't
you were
re-
talking about the mountain, Chocolate Mountain.
Yeah, that's what he called it, but I guess it's the Providence Mountain is.
Yeah. See, that's
Well,
what my
it's-
problem is. You can't get a campground. There's no campgrounds out there. So I don't have a problem with it, but if I take Mama, she's gonna have a problem. So the closest one I know of is the KOA in Barstow, which is pretty crappy.
Well, we used to have this, it was 3 of us, and there was me, Mark, and Eddie. And Eddie, after the first time we went, he got rid of all his camping stuff. He kind of left it there. And it was for me to pick up and take. And he would go all the way to Nipton. he rented a room at the Nipton Inn, and then would come back at night after he had his bath and sleep in a bed and all that, and here I was sleeping in the back of a Yukon, on a thin mat, so.
So Hank, I gotta ask you again. Is this the area right here next to Lone Pine, Alabama Hills? Looks like there's people living here. So you go up farther?
So okay, let's see here.
Where's Lone Pine?
Do you see, is that Lone Pine over there? Okay, so
They call this
so
Alabama.
you need to look at the road that goes from Lone Pine to Mount Whitney, and that's just mostly.
Oh, there it is.
Oh, yeah, there it is. That area. So there's a road called the Movie Road, and I think that's what you're pointing at, probably. Well, maybe not. I'm not quite sure. Well,
Yeah,
anyway,
it's up above there. It's up at the top. In that picture, it was at the top.
Yeah. So you can go in there and you can camp free, and it's pretty dark there. So compared to Horseshoe Meadows, which is at 10,000 feet, it's just about equally good, and it's not nearly as cold. But Horseshoe Meadows, by the way, is also great. So if you take that same road and then you turn south, there's a switchback road that goes all the way to 10,000 feet, and there's a campground there. I once went there and just went to the daytime parking lot set up there. There was were no cars there, and nobody sent me away.
Mount Whitney Trailhead here.
Right. So
Portal Campground.
Yeah, they don't even try and get into that place.
But that's too far. So the Horseshoe Meadows Road is one of these other roads, the thin road that I think you're pointing at there. Yeah.
But
Anyway.
you could probably stay at any one of those campgrounds. I mean, I guess, like, for example, we usually stay at Taboos, which is north of where you're talking about. It's up by Big Pine.
Okay.
So you can, there are other campgrounds.
Yeah, there are several campgrounds there. The Alabama Hills is not the only one, but it's one that is free, so you don't have to make reservations or anything.
Yeah,
like
it's
that.
BLM land there.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Yeah, that's all the way by where you're looking now. That's Whitney Portal. That's a beautiful place, by the way, and that's how I got to know that area. There's a Mason Creek, but that's not where the road is. So you're going too far there.
It's too far.
That's south
And-
of Bishop or north?
So
South.
this is the Lone Pine. So yeah, so the
It's
Lone
south,
Pine campground. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, anyway, I can't tell that.
probably 50 or 60 miles south. I
That
wanna say.
Lone Pine,
Might be
the
more.
back out.
Tuttle Creek campground.
They don't have enough detail on here.
Horseshoe
Which
Meadows
is-
should be a bit south of there, so further south.
Much farther.
Yeah, I don't see it. No, go the other way. Yeah. I don't see it. Sorry.
The Lone Pine's up here.
Yeah, Lone Pine is up there. So, but that Delacour Ranch, maybe. Oh, yeah. I see. You see that those switchbacks over there? I think that's the way to Horseshoe Meadows over there, right over there. So, yeah, I'll go to the right. Delacour Ranch. See that? Okay, and that's a place where that road goes through, and then you see all these switchbacks that goes to Horseshoe Meadows.
Oh,
The Cottonwood Pass, that's a campground. So there are two campgrounds there, I think. And when I was there last time, you could just sign up for 1 or 2 nights. I think wasn't there a 1 night maximum? I'm not quite sure, but they don't check a whole lot. I think maybe there was a 2 night maximum.
I mean, you had to have reservation.
No, you did not.
Okay, but they only let you stay there 1 or 2 nights, huh?
Yeah, there was a limit to it. I'm not quite sure what it was, but at the same time, it was pretty empty there as well. So, you could probably
What the
stay.
heck they got a limit for?
Just take your chances. Yeah.
People are going hiking somewhere. And
Yep.
They wanna
There's beautiful
They don't
hiking.
want it all cluttered up with people.
If you
staying.
take the Cottonwood Lake trails, it's beautiful over there. So for the daytime, that's definitely worthwhile doing. But at night, it gets pretty cold there. So if you want to go observing there, bring warm clothes.
So you don't try to observe at the campground, you go someplace else to do that?
Well,
Or
yeah.
whatever.
So the since it's in the middle of the trees, you have to look for an open area, and the best place I could find was the daytime parking lot. Right in the middle there was a patch where I could set up.
Sounds
and
like
that
Mount
worked well.
Pinos.
yeah. I bet you that's it right there.
Yeah, that could very well be it. That
Horseshoe
daytime parking lot.
Horseshoe Meadow Campground.
I think that's the daytime parking lot. What I see right there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Must have been. And it's
Oh, well.
actually closed at night. So I parked somewhere else. I just dropped my stuff off, and then I put a tent down somewhere over there. But it was cold enough that I had to go into my sleeping bag with clothes on and boots on and so on. So it's- and once in a while you go check.
It's a lot to be said for multiple sleeping bags, one inside another.
And
I've done that at RTMC a couple times.
right. But for all those reasons, the Alabama Hills is much better because it's not nearly as cold. It's actually nice. And you're close to Lone Pine. So if you, in the morning, if you want to go get breakfast or something,
Yeah.
or you have to go to the bathroom, whatever, it's easier.
Which is that one, Henk? It's the Alabama Hills?
Yeah, the Alabama Hills.
Okay.
And so there are no facilities there. So,
Bring your own.
Bring your own bucket.
Mhm. Yeah, that's the one thing I didn't like about it, but yeah. It's nice though.
yeah, but like I said, it's not far away from Lone Pine. So if you time everything, then it's not a big problem.
Yeah, it's a real hassle finding a decent dark site nowadays.
Yeah.
I just looked at I've got this site called Atmospheric, and I've gone
we're
down
checking it out.
one point on the light pollution scale because just things have just been getting brighter. Atmospheric, yeah.
Lone Pine is actually a nice place. That village, it's crossroads of hikers and people that visit and so on. It's a nice place to visit actually.
Yeah.
They've got some cute stores and restaurants all over. So
And you got
Oh,
the Museum of Western Film History.
I've been into that. I recommend it, by the way.
Yeah.
Didn't do it. There we
All
go.
right. Camping, yes. So like
Okay.
I just want to mention I was at Death Valley Friday through Saturday nights, and there's a group called the Atheists United from Los Angeles, and one of the humanists, Santa Barbara humanist people in town, they wanted to borrow a telescope from the SBAU, and I came up with this 90 millimeter how do you say that?
Maksutov.
Maksutov, and on a manual tripod, and so I let them take that there, and then I decided, well, I think I'll go check it out. So I stayed at this $34 a night RV park with my Honda CRV, and I slept in the back of my Honda CRV. But on Friday night, I helped them set up the telescope and play with it and looked at different things. And then on Saturday night, they had their actual star party that they were planning in a parking lot of this borax mining area. Old borax mining area. I guess they only did borax there for like 5 years, really. It's very famous for the 20 mule teams, right? But
Yes.
but at this parking lot, people just kept coming in with cars and headlights and until 9 o'clock, and it was kind of a bad, but a little talk went on. They had this girl from Davis give a talk, and some science teacher lady. But I had my 12-inch Dobsonian there, and it was, you see the Milky Way, but it wasn't the sharpest of nights. There had been clouds that day and Saturday coming across, which kept it cooler, which was good because I visited, the minus 282 feet below sea level area and the salt flats and all these other little places that they have there. So it was a good, could spend a nice day there checking out the different Death Valley stuff. But it was fun for me. I went golfing even. I went golfing at the lowest golf course in the world at minus 200 feet. I played 9 holes there.
Is that golf course? Is that near that Furnace place?
Yes, Furnace Creek is where I was staying, and it's called the Ranch, the Oasis Group, and I guess it's some sort of hotel group that runs a lot of concessionaires for national parks, and they own that whole area. And it was great to stay at that RV park because they had a pool, they had the restaurants and general store, and so if you couldn't shower at the RV park, you just went over to the pool and showered there, and so that worked out. It took ice from the ice machines in the hotel that they had, so they had rooms and just take ice from the ice machines. So it worked out pretty well.
What was the temperature?
It didn't, I don't know if it reached 90 or not on those days, and went down below 60. But at night, I was out in my t-shirt at the parking lot where we had the star party and for 10 o'clock. So it wasn't that bad.
I love those days. I love those days.
Yeah. Nice warm night.
That
was an adventure.
I heard that we're going to be starting our club star parties again at the museum.
They're going to start. Yeah. I mean, it really should be like this Saturday night, shouldn't it? I haven't heard more from Chuck yet.
I haven't heard from him, but they were talking about this month, starting them up. So here we go.
So maybe we'll get there.
Not this workshop bunch. They're not going to be going to that. I literally remember having a guy come from out of town and coming to the star party, and he took one look and he said, "You guys don't have you have no view." Because the buildings are just go straight up around you, and then there's
at the museum. Yeah.
You have this little quarter-sized hole to look through.
Yeah, it's really, leaves a lot to be desired there. So you just got to look straight up, see what's there, do what you can.
Yeah. This area you guys are talking about tonight just sounds, I mean, I went up in that area one time to, I think it's called Upper Rock Creek. And boy, I got a case of altitude sickness. I went up after working straight, through the night, and then took my young family up there, and we went up to about, I guess, 10,000 feet. 9,000 plus feet. And boy, I really suffered up there. There was it would have been beautiful, but there's, like you guys are talking about, there's trees. So you had to, it's finding the open spots that's tough.
That's why I like that Grand View campground, because it had big open areas up there.
Yes.
So it's a little further down the road though.
The last time I was there was packed full of amateur astronomers. It was hard to find a campsite where
Oh
you
no.
could.
Oh boy.
Well,
But that was like 15 years ago, you know.
Where's that
There's
at,
gonna be
you
worse
guys?
now.
White Mountain.
oh,
Yeah, White Mountains area.
Leopold talks about going up there all the time. He said it's just incredible.
But it's 10,000 feet.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I suffer it. I crap out about, I think, about 8,600 feet. Although I went up to Pinos and we went up to the top, and I felt great. The time I went up, I was working till late at night, and the next day I got up, I didn't eat anything except a slice of bread and like a cup of coffee. By the time we got up to 10,000 feet, man, I didn't realize what bad shape I was in.
A lot of people get dehydrated. That's part of the problem.
That's what I was gonna say.
Yep,
A lot of big problem, because you evaporate so much more readily at higher elevation.
Yep, I think that's the key, is to really hydrate.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I think the next time up to Pinos, I just drank a lot of water. I had no problems at all.
Mm-hmm.
Grand View.
There's lots of open area there.
Yes, there is.
That's what makes it very appealing to me. Now, the other one I've heard about is Great Basin.
Where?
Great Basin, which is on the Utah-Nevada border, about mid-state. I'd say right near Ely, near Ely, in that area there. It's called Great Basin. Now, I think it's
But that's a long drive.
oh, yeah. I mean, you got to be committed.
Yeah.
I actually think that that Grand View would probably be almost better, to tell you the truth.
How far where exactly is Grand View?
It's kind of like on the California, Nevada border. If you take, there's a road that goes out of Big Pine, not Lone Pine,
Oh,
but
okay.
Big Pine.
Yeah.
You take that road up there, and it goes up to that summit area there. Eventually, I think the road runs into 6, because 6 comes out of a Bishop. See, so you can get up there that way, and then I think that where you turn off, it's kind of a skyline road on the White Mountain area.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, the
Looks
one
like
area we were all over up there, and the one place I didn't go was Bishop.
It's a neat town. One of my faves.
Oh, there it is. Okay. So it's not too far from Bishop, huh?
Yeah,
No.
notice upper right, it's Grand View is really close to the Bristlecone Monument.
Mhm. It's just down the road.
Yep,
Says Methuselah Grove.
that's right.
Methuselah Grove.
And those trees aren't very big at all.
Yeah, little guys.
Bristlecone Pines, yeah.
That's why I really like that area, is because there's not real tall trees, they're just real
Yeah.
scrubby stuff.
Whoa.
Is this tree still alive?
It might be.
Yeah, I think it
Yeah.
might be. It's got some.
Well,
great
most of them
mountains.
look like they've been beat within an inch of their life from the
Mhm.
weather, but
Wow.
they've been surviving that way for like 10,000 years.
You
Whoa.
see
That looked like it
Yeah.
got burnt.
Yeah, it doesn't look very good. Only a couple photos.
That definitely is at an altitude that if you're susceptible to altitude sickness,
You gotta be
you're in a world of
careful.
hurt.
You know, the other thing I've heard about altitude sickness too is get yourself acclimatized. See, in other words, you know, if you can get up to a higher elevation, say midway, and then go up all the way, or maybe
you're right, Dick. You're right. When we went up that Upper Rock Creek, I was really sick up there, but we came down just a little ways down. And when I got down to 6,000 feet, good grief, I felt like I could run a mile.
Yeah, well, that's just it. When you're up at that high elevation and then you get back down and you feel like Hercules.
We had one guy that he knew what I was talking. Hell, I thought I was going to have a heart attack. And the one guy said, "Hey, dude, you got altitude sickness. Drink a lot of water."
Yeah. And
you know, he was out chopping wood. He worked there. And he was just saying, you know what? He goes, altitude sickness is weird. He goes, the way that he explained it to me, it's like your blood changes. So if you came up to like 7,000 feet and spent the night there, or spent a couple of nights and then went up to 10,000, he said, it's no big deal. You've already, you know, like what you were talking about, Dick, you acclimatize and then you go up, and it's the transition is nothing. But, you know, 0 to 10,000, that's something else again.
Yeah. See, when I was living in Simi Valley, I was already up about 900 plus feet where I was living. So going to like Pinos and all that wasn't a big deal.
Yeah.
We're about 900, close to 900 here where I live. 900 feet.
Well, it was a shock to me because I never experienced anything like that. I really thought I was having a heart attack. And then the next morning, my son was really young. And the next morning it started snowing. So right over my head where I was sleeping, there was this one light bulb. And 4 a.m, the light bulb snaps on and he was yelling at me to get up, it's snowing. You know, I felt like
just what you need.
I thought I was gonna fucking die, man. And I went outside and from Santa Barbara, I've never been in anything except like, you know, close to 34 degrees, but you know, it was 12 degrees out, you know. And he goes, "Isn't this great?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, really great," you know. So like I said, we went down the hill just a bit and I said, "Let's go back up." You know, it just took a little time. Well, I think I'm going to finish up and then sign off. But 2 weeks ago today, my sister passed away. It was really, really terrible. She was. I wanted to lay that out there for you guys. That's why I've been kind of missing. It was only about 5 weeks ago, 6 weeks at the most, and
what
said,
got her?
Cancer. And you know, she had fallen down. She's taking care of her husband who has exactly the same cancer, and liver cancer, lung cancer, and she had fallen down and she thought that her side was hurt, and so she went to the doctor and he said, you know, it's just not getting any better. So he took a scan and found a huge mass on the outside of her liver. Well, 2 weeks later they took another scan and the cancer like doubled.
Oh wow.
And you know, it just ravaged her. And you know, it was, like I said, 2 weeks ago today, she, you know, her daughter called me and just said, you know, I'm being asked to get to the hospital really fast. And an hour later she called and said she's gone. So it was it was a real bad day at Black Rock. But what a great gal. She helped everybody around her, and in doing that, I think she neglected her own health. So it was terrible. What a loss. You know, much better person than me, that's for sure. So, and she has a guy, the guys that was living with her husband, boyfriend, but I know that they are legally companions. I just found that out the other day. But he's from Mexico and his brother's around. He's a master woodworker, so he's always fascinating to talk with. But what a tragic situation. And right near her is a river river that runs by, or big creek area that was constantly flooding. And she met some homeless guy there. And one Christmas brought him over to the house. And the guy had never put up Christmas lights in his life. And he's, you know, like in his 60s. And he could, and you know, so she took him on, and the guy's living in a driveway. He can't live inside. He claims to be a special forces from Vietnam. I don't believe that, but I would never tell my sister, you know, I would never say anything about that. I don't care what he is. She believed in him. That's good enough for me. But, you know, she helped everybody around her. Anyway, I just thought I'd mention it. That's why you haven't seen me.
So sad.
Yeah, it was fast, but you know, Joe Doyle just saying, hey, fast sometimes is good. You know,
Hopefully she didn't suffer too much.
I got a bad feeling she did, because this tumor that she had in her liver, they claimed twice she had to go to the ER in severe pain, and what they think happened is it burst inside of her.
Oh my.
So yeah, so that was a huge amount of pain.
And then that would metastasize it more. So
yeah,
make it worse.
Yeah, it was just devastating. And you know, I've been contacting people all over the world, you know, that knew her and loved her. She was quite a gal. She was quite a gal. Anyway, guys, on that note, I'm getting much better, more upbeat all the time. So hopefully I'll get back into this project.
Okay.
But
well,
keep your health up front.
Yeah.
Take care of your health. Yeah. That's what
Bye, guys.
Okay, I'm gonna leave too. Take care.
Okay,
right.
guys.
Been a good evening.
You all. Yeah.
See you.
Yep. Good to see you guys. Good night, everybody. End for all.